Recorded live in the Nook at the Epicurean. We're here with... Surely you must be joking.
Oh my God. All right. That was horrible. We're listening to Steve Mosto trying to do the introduction to this program called Correct Me If I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm, not that guy who really wants to be a host. And in fact, he is going to be a host of a program here on Radio Free Rhine Cliff. What's your show going to be?
God willing.
That's what it's called?
God willing.
Yeah.
Steve talks about music. It's still currently under development. I have my team of writers researching really just nuggets of things that people want to know about, but they don't know yet. So we're unearthing gems.
That was the most verbose and least descriptive thing I've ever heard.
It's going to be a cool show about music. So there's going to be old guys.
Show about music.
And then there's going to be young guys. My son, Henry, is 20, is hooked into a bunch of young, up-and-coming artists, so he'll be a part of the show.
Nice.
He won't actually be here because he doesn't want to be in the same room as me. Actually.
Oh, come on.
All right, he kind of does.
Now, and it's the show about music. What kind of credentials do you have for to do a show about music?
Well, Norm.
Oh, God. This is not how we rehearsed it at all, Steve.
It's not? I thought we did. I thought we did it exactly like this. I've been playing piano since I was 4. So piano's my thing. Keyboards are my thing.
Now imagine Schroeder and the Peanuts things,
which
like
I can play. It was one of my early
piano.
tunes. I mastered that early.
Really?
Out of the gate.
Did you have a toy piano?
No, I did not. And there's not enough room to have one here. I thought about bringing one. Matt said, "Bring a keyboard," and I'm like, "No."
Do you know this group Pianosaurus? They play like rock songs, but all on toy instruments.
Really?
Yeah. I saw them one time. They warmed up, not surprisingly, for Jonathan Richman.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Weird Al Yankovic.
Who
I've seen live. Have you ever seen Weird Al live?
No.
That was wild. It was in the 80s, and it was in Nashville, and he played this small 1,000-person club, and he slayed.
He's amazing.
Talk about mob ties, though.
Oh, really? Really?
Yes, the label he was signed to was some mobby-ish thing.
Really?
Italian name. I can't think of it right
Well,
now.
regardless, I mean, his career is like 4 decades now or something. And I'm just always surprised that he continues to be relevant. He continues to deal with whatever is popular at that point in time.
Well, anyone that can come up with the rhyme virgin with sturgeon deserves to stick around, in my opinion.
That's a good one. I'm guessing that was a Madonna thing. All right, well, back to your credentials. Playing the piano since you were 4. What else?
Yeah, so I played with my sister Joanne in northern New Jersey in the 70s. We just played hundreds and hundreds of wedding ceremonies and wedding receptions, which really damaged me psychically and emotionally.
Really?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's such bad theater. When you give a bride a platform like that, where they get to be the star of their own musical for a day,
Yeah.
it never ends well.
Really?
It's always really, and I'm sorry. I apologize to all brides. But it's, Anyway, so as the musician, we'd have to play, and there was always the drunk Uncle Tony who demanded to sing My Way or...
Oh, God.
Give
me the microphone.
Or Danny Boy. It was always Danny Boy in a very drunken delivery.
I want to sing Mustang Sally. Can you play that?
And we always had to sing, anyway, it was the 70s. We had to play all of those classic things. Anyway, it was really damaging. So by the time I got out of high school and stopped playing those, I swore off cover music forever, and I just played original. So in the 80s, we had a record deal out of Mary Tyler Moore Records in Nashville under Tommy West, who recently passed away. Tommy. Looking at you, man. We were called the Almost Brothers.
This was you and your sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were almost brothers, but we were brother and sister. No, me and a friend of mine, Mike Ragonia. So we started as brothers and sisters, and then the sister left, and then we were just left as brothers. So,
I see.
But we weren't. We were almost brothers.
Well, was there a song when you're doing the wedding singing, was there a song that you just wouldn't do, that you told brides, like, listen, we'll play whatever you want, but we're not playing that?
No, we played everything because that's how you made your money. I mean, if you wanted the tip at the end, which was as much as we were getting paid to do the show, we used to play out of this wedding factory in Wayne called the Bethwood. And it's exactly what you think it is. There's just be 100 rooms, some small, some huge. And we usually played the small ones, which means we weren't getting paid a lot of money.
And is that venue near the Fountains of Wayne?
It is, actually. It's
nice.
right down the street from the
Which
Fountains.
Which is an actual place.
That's
from
right.
whence this group took their name.
Yes.
So what happened? We went to the Almost Brothers down there in Nash Vegas.
So they were dealt a quick and decisive death.
They,
Them,
Us.
because they did not deserve to live, and it was a flawed concept, and we weren't really a legit country act. Sorry, if anybody is pining away about the Almost Brothers still 45 years ago. We weren't. We were an acoustic pop act, and it was too early. It was before Garth Brooks, so country hadn't really expanded then, so we weren't welcomed. We came out the first year. Our album came out when Lyle Lovett and his big band, large band, was playing his old throwback stuff. Dwight Yoakam came out, and Randy Travis, who sounded like guys who were 50 years older than him.
Yeah.
So it was this neo-traditionalist movement that happened. And even Katie Lang, who is also considered now a very progressive artist, was doing old throwback music.
And that was like the last time I really liked popular country music. Were those days. I loved Dwight Yoakam and Travis.
Yeah, so we were down there. And Steve Earle.
Steve Earle,
Who is now, of course, this sage guy and amazing, but he was not a sage back then.
I think he's playing at the Bearsville Theater.
Yeah, he's amazing. Steve Earle has proven
Solo act.
to have legs.
So you said you didn't deserve to succeed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the act wasn't great, and it had a lot of essential problems. So then after it didn't work out, and the label said, "All right, we're done. You're done, but you can stay and use the studio and start write, use it for whatever you want. Write songs that you actually care about that are exciting and moving."
Nice.
So we had access to a recording studio, and they paid for all of our demo costs, and we recorded about 2.5 albums over a period of a year and a half. And that's when I learned how to be a professional writer, vocalist,
Right.
and we made a couple albums. It was called Body Politic was the name of our act.
Nice. And they still weren't sort of country.
No, this was pop rock. Then we did what became naturally to me, and I got involved in writing, and I was singing rock vocals instead of doing polite harmony, pop country-ish vocals.
Pop rock in the vein of who?
Like Phil Collins and probably Bruce Hornsby-ish keyboard. So I'm a piano guy. So
And was that stuff ever packaged and marketed?
not really. It wasn't. We pitched it. We almost got a deal out of it, but then not quite.
Almost got a deal.
Almost, yeah. We almost got a deal. The Almost Brothers almost got another deal.
Would have been nice. But the Almost Brothers had a deal?
We did. We were signed to Mary Tyler Moore Records, and it was
right.
So it was fun. So we got to exist in the country music world for about 3 years, and it was fun. We were sort of, because we were considered a pet project of the producer and the exec VP of creative and A&R. So we were never really highly regarded with the other people.
Did you tour?
We did. So we were on the road promoting our album, actually not the album, and our single, and we were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, great story, and we're on the air, and our second single just lost its bullet. And for anybody who knows the music business, is that when a single is released and it comes out on the charts and radio stations are adding it, you have this upward movement on the charts, and you get a bullet to show that you're in this upward movement. So it's like, all right, everything's exciting. So you work to get the bullet, and you try to add it and get as many stations. The promotion guys are calling around. But when you lose your bullet, which means you lose your momentum, then it just falls off because nobody's adding it, and it just dies.
Ugh.
It just like sinks like a rock to the bottom of the river.
And what was the highest the bullet got to?
So the second single, our bullet got to like 55, which is not good. The first song came out and went to like 46 or 47. It was top 50, but in country, it doesn't matter unless you're top 20. So we were and the song was called, I think, "What's Your Name" or "Birds of a Feather." It just, it's
All right, come on.
embarrassing things.
Can you hum a few bars?
No.
Come on.
No.
Oh, please.
"What's Your Name" is an old Sam and Dave song. What's your name? Is it Mary or Sue? So we used to sing that live in harmony on the air all the time, go around. So we did that, but we were going into the Tulsa country station, and we get the call from Bruce Schindler, our promotion guy.
Right.
Also New Yorker, down in Nashville in the mid-'80s. And he's like, "Guys, sorry to tell you, you guys lost your bullet." And we're like, "Dag nabbit." Sorry.
Watch your mouth.
I know. There's children. Children may be listening.
It's a family show.
It's a family hour. So we were devastated. So we knew that was literally the beginning of the end, because we were kind of told that first single didn't make top 20, and if your second one doesn't, your career is over.
Wow.
So I was beside myself, and I was, and we were exhausted. We had been on the road for like 2 months just driving around doing this radio station tour, which is an interesting concept because no one would book us. because we didn't have really have a manager.
So it was a radio station tour. You didn't play any venues?
No, we were just doing radio station tours. So we get on the air. Yeah, so there was a lot of inherent problems with the act. So we get on the air, and I go off. So it's, an environment like this. Mike Ragonia, my almost brother, and I are there with the radio DJ, and I just start going over the top saying shit for country music, which was crazy. And I don't remember any of the context, but I was pushing the line.
Like live on Tulsa radio station?
Live on Tulsa country radio, and I'm doing it, and the DJ thought it was hilarious, and we get off, and Mike was like, I don't know if you should have done that. I'm like, I don't care.
What kind of shit were you saying?
I don't know. I was talking about like killing people and putting them in a box or like hammer something or whatever.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So it was a little inappropriate, but it was funny. It was like that Woody Allen movie. If it bends, it's funny. It was bending, like Alan Alda said. And Jim Halsey at the time, who was a major booking agent. There were 3 major booking agents: William Morris Agency, CAA, and then Jim Halsey Company, who booked the Judds, who booked the Oak Ridge Boys. Glenn Campbell and Roy Clark were like his top acts. So we get off the air, and I'm just beside myself still. We're like, all right, let's get out of here. So all of a sudden, the mousy gal from the radio station says,
Mousy gal.
Yeah, mousy gal.
Go on. You can say that.
Mousy gal says, Almost Brothers, it's Jim Halsey on the phone. And I'm like, give me that phone. I thought she was just messing with us. I thought the whole world is out to get us. Oop, jeez, sorry. And and I get it. I'm like, yeah, this is Steve, Almost Brother. How can I help you? And he goes, well, Steve, it's Jim Halsey. And I'm like, yeah, right. And he was pulled back a little, and I said, Steve, this is Jim Halsey. I'm like, and the mousy gal was like, it's him. And I'm like, oh shit. So he said, you boys were hilarious. I want you to come down. I need an opening act for Roy Clark and Glenn Campbell down at Caesars next month, and I want to know if you guys would be interested in signing up and going on that little tour with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll be right there. So we hang up the phone. I call up Tommy West, our producer. I'm like, Tommy, this is what happened. And he's like, I'm like, what do we do? And he goes, go see him and sign the contract. So we did. We didn't end up doing Caesars, but we did get to open up for the Oak Ridge Boys for 2 months, playing 3,000 seat circle in the round where the stage moves, which is a little unsettling the first time you're on that, where it's like, I'm turning around. I'm not. Usually when you play a show as an artist with the lights on, you find like a couple of people and like you work them so that you kind of make your way around, but they're there and they're always there. But then the stage is moving and it's like, all right, I can't even look at anybody. So I'm like looking up, I'm looking over here. And so we opened for the Oak Ridge Boys. We did everything they told us to do. We stayed out of their way. A lot of funny Oak Ridge Boys stories, which may or may not be allowable here. But we come off the road, and I know we did exactly what we were supposed to do. You have to be good, but not that good.
Right.
Because we weren't that good.
Because you're warming up for them.
We're warming up. You can't steal any thunder from the mainline act, right? Of course, every time. Otherwise, you're out. So we did that. We stayed out of the way. We didn't go on their buses. We didn't befriend their band like we were trying to steal guys. Like we stayed away from them.
Right.
And we come back, and our agent from the Jim Halsey Company said, "What happened?" We get into his office. I'm like, "All right, what are we doing next? I mean, this is great. We're gonna take over the country by storm." And he's like, "No." He goes, "The Oaks hated you."
The Oaks.
I'm like, "What do you mean? We did everything right." And he goes, "No, they hated you." He goes, you'll never get another gig here at the Halsey Agency." So, of course, after that happened, I'm like,
why'd they hate you?
I don't know, because we had Italian last names with vowels at the end. I don't know. That's all I could think. I felt like we were Northerners that didn't change our name.
Yankees.
Right. And we didn't change our voices, so we didn't sound like everybody else. Damn, Nashville. God, gee.
Man.
And we didn't wear boots or hats.
Yeah.
We didn't fit in. We were just those northern types.
Well, there goes our Tennessee listenership.
I know. We just lost.
Right
We lost the state of Tennessee.
Thanks
sorry.
for that.
So the problem is that we weren't accepted, and because you ain't from around here, which we weren't.
Great. There goes Mississippi. Thanks, Steve. Trying to build something here.
We still have Louisiana.
Poof. Gone.
All right, I'll stop.
Oh, geez. Well, so then what? So your career's over. Jim Halsey says you'll never work in this town again.
It was over. So then we went and we recorded pop rock. No one cared about it. I decided the last thing I wanted to do, there were 2 clubs in Nashville where we could play pop rock music. And then you had to drive to Memphis, to Atlanta, to Montgomery, to like you literally had to be on the road in the deep South, driving 2 to 4 to 6 hours to play your music that hardly anyone would care about. And I'm like, that's it. I'm out. I'm going back to New York.
And so you came back to New York and did what? Did you?
I started from scratch. Nothing. Mike stayed down there. I got a day gig. I have a chemical engineering degree, so I got a job selling. Working for West Vegas. It was always a day gig. Even the company that I run now, being Steam God of New York, it's a day gig completely. I'm a musician who has a day gig.
I see.
That's it.
And you've never changed the way you thought about that. It was never like I've got this Steam job, but that's my job, and I do music on the side. You've always been a musician who has a day gig.
Right, who makes no money being a musician.
Love that. That's no, but that's fabulous that you never changed your self-definition. It was always, I'm a musician. That's who I am. That's what I am.
Right.
And I'm doing this other stuff to support myself, but that's not who I am. So despite the fact that you are, as you just said, the steam god. Now, what does that mean? What makes you a steam god?
Well, I have special powers over steam. I can summon steam at will from the deep reset. All right.
Don't make me answer the questions for you. I will do it.
So my next gig after the working for Westvaco, the paper company, not doing not nice things to the environment, as all paper companies do. And I guess that's a separate show. We can talk about how do you make paper. No one really wants to know. So I get a job and I'm selling, I have a chemical engineering degree, so I'm selling like flow meters for this company in Manhattan, in New York.
Flow meters?
Flow meters to measure flow in pipe, which is, long and boring. I'm not going to explain what that is beyond that. And then they hire for them. I work like 3 months and they lose the line. And the owner of the company says, all right, we don't have that. We can't use what we hired you for. You have to learn steam. Otherwise, you're out. We're going to let you go. I'm like, all right, I'll learn steam. So I start selling steam stuff, which I'm a chemical engineer, and we didn't study steam. I knew, of course, what steam was because I saw it on the stove.
Now, mechanical engineers?
Yeah, so mechanical engineers typically go into the steam side of things.
Gotcha.
Though not much. So essentially, you don't learn steam until you work with it. So they don't really teach you anything about steam in school. Even for mechanical engineers, in my school, 1 week with the Babcock and Wilcox book of boiler steam, how a boiler works, and they do that, and you solve a couple problems on how you size a boiler, and that's it. And then it goes back into you move on from there.
So you learned steam with this company?
Yeah. So New York City happens to have the single largest utility public steam system in the world. There's about 2,000 buildings that get fed by it, and what that means. And you ever wondered why in Mary Poppins, London has all those chimney sweeps, and New York didn't? Like, why didn't we have our own chimney sweeps with Brooklyn and Queens accents? Like, where were they?
Or Dick Van Dyke's fabulous English accent.
Yes. So the reason why is because in the late 1800s, New York City was built on the premise of not only having electricity and water in the street, but steam. So you didn't have to burn coal and oil and gas. In all those big buildings of New York City, you got fed from a public steam system that they were burning the coal, oil, and gas outside on the exterior of Manhattan.
And now it's Con Ed. Have they always been the utility company that created and provided this steam?
Yeah, Con Edison, it sort of evolved over time, but Thomas Edison was the guy. So it became a consolidated. There was a number of private utility providers in the early days, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Lots of different steam companies.
Yeah, so the first loop was a little one that was started down around Pearl Street because New York City in the 1800s was down in Lower Manhattan. That's where the downtown commercial business district was. They were still farming in Midtown on Central Park in the 1800s when they built the Museum of Natural History. Right? We saw that movie. What's the movie where they go back in time?
Oh, jeez.
Anyway.
Bill and Ted?
Yes, Bill and Ted. Speaking of K-word.
Oh, God. I don't even know. I'm not asking. So you're getting into the steam business.
Yeah, so I get in the steam business, and I realized after a couple of years, like, nobody really knows anything. they're just like, the chiefs would be like, hey, I need a couple of these. This is bad. Can you send me that? All right. And how about 2 tickets to the Yankee game?
Oh, great. There goes our Queens audience now. Thanks, Steve.
Can I move over to Brooklyn next?
No.
So it was basically supply distributor guys who were not technically minded would just sell, like, oh, what do you have there? I'll give you that, whatever failed. And I came in, I'm like, no, don't do that because it'll just fail again in 6 months. Let me sell you 3 of these. And so I started developing an approach and a way to improve the operation and solve problems. And I formalized the process of doing steam system audits. And
while working for this other company.
Yeah, while working for them.
Then at some point you went, I'm looking at your logo now. It says Mosto Technologies. You're Mosto. At some point you went out on your own. How'd that happen?
That's right. Well, first we have to have a plug. When I'm parched, I reach for my Mosto Technologies pink water jug.
All right.
Mosto Technology. All right.
And it says here underneath, maximizing steam system efficiencies.
I was working with this marketing guy, and he came up with this thing, but I don't really work with him any longer because I don't know.
Marketing guy.
He wasn't, he wasn't charging me enough. He was like doing it for free, and I figured if you're giving stuff away, why would you continue working with
That's
him?
what it's worth. Yeah. So you went out on your own. How long ago was that?
I went out on my own. It was 24 years ago, and it was because my boss at the time was a cheap wanker.
Oh.
Can we say that here?
English fellow?
New Zealand, he was a Kiwi.
Oh, Kiwi.
Which we could talk about deck sealants later.
Oh, God.
So,
if you haven't seen it, note to everybody listening, Google New Zealand deck sealant commercial. It's hilarious.
That's right. And then,
we just watched it.
Right. And they bring up African.
No, we don't need to. Nope.
Alrighty then. Back to the steam talk.
Yes. So he was a Kiwi. He was a wanker. You went out on your own.
He was a wanker. So because he wasn't paying me enough, and that's why we do things. I'm like, I literally turned an envelope over one day at lunch, and I said, if I take all my customers and I make this much, I can do it. And like, all right, deal. And I asked my inside guy who was helping me sell. I'm like, you want to come with me, or you want to stay working for this wanker? And he's like, I'll come with you.
Wow.
So we came out.
And who was that guy?
JW.
Okay. Is he still with you?
No.
Oh.
No, we parted ways.
Did he go out on his own? Do the same thing in the back of his own envelope?
Doubt it. I don't think his envelope was big enough.
Oh, well, I don't think we can go there.
I don't think we can.
So how long ago was that?
24 years.
Nice.
1997.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And at some point, I'm going to say maybe like 8 years ago, the New York Times was doing sort of an investigative piece. And they started doing all these videos on things, very informative, really nicely done. And they did one on the steam system in New York City.
They did.
And they interviewed an expert on steam. And that guy's name was...
Tony Baccigalup.
No, great.
No.
Oh, there goes Brooklyn.
All right.
No, it was you, Steve Mosto.
Right. Oh, right. It was me. Right. Of
And
course.
it's an amazing thing because you watch this and, the imprimatur of the New York Times, they're like, oh, well, they know, And then there you are and you sound great and smart and you're kind of the preeminent expert on steam.
I am.
In New York City.
Are you referring to the video that's on nytimes.com?
Yes, that's it.
When I'm looking for steam information, I go to nytimes.com, press steam.
All right, good. I think maybe now is a good time for a short commercial break.
Okay.
Do you want to do it? Say something nice about the Epicurean who's hosting the Nook here? Steve, you don't have to do it in the announcer voice.
But I feel like I always have to hold. Who was the radio guy and laughing?
Yeah.
Who's the guy?
I'll try to remember. He was great. Laughing.
When I'm walking through Rhinecliff and I'm hungry or parched, I always come into the Epicurean. And then sometimes there's even radio shows being shot in the back. Shot.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Wait, but there's a gun in the corner. That's only if somebody misbehaves, they get shot.
Apart from that, how did you like the play, Mrs. Lincoln? All right.
Here at the Epicurean.
All right. So now we're going to take another break. A tradition
Local
of this
produce
program.
aplenty.
Correct me if I'm Norm. With me, your host, Norm. Tradition is everybody brings a cocktail. Which is a great idea because the show records at 5 p.m. on Fridays. And so I get a free drink like every Friday at 5:30 or so. But Steve is 2 years, 7 months.
2 years, 8 months and change.
2 years, 8 months sober. Congratulations. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
An amazing feat. And so he brought a mocktail and... He's opening it now. He's
nearly
going to
loud
pour it into here. Let me pour. I'm going to pour mine in front of the mic. See if we can get some of that
Okay.
delightful. All right, good. So tell us about this mocktail that you worked so hard to develop, especially for the show.
Right. I believe I mispronounced this before, but now we'll call it right. It had, because it was bright pink, which matches my pink water bottle, the lychee or lychees. Did I say it wrong again?
Who
my
knows?
goodness,
I don't know how
lychee.
to pronounce that. I
And
always
it's a
called
juice
it
drink
lychee.
with pulp. So I went into the local Valero gas station.
I see.
Pronouncing correct Spanish, since I'm from South America, so I can do my bad Spanish pronunciation.
I see. It's okay then.
It is okay.
Fine.
Because I'm Gringo Supremo.
I did not know that.
Yes, I am.
Is that a Steam thing too?
No.
So anyway, tell us about this mocktail. What is it? It's a can of crap you bought at the gas station.
It is.
Let's just call it how it is.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for bringing it. Wow, that's weird. You could have gotten something much better right here at the Epicurean. How'd I do? Announcer voice.
Good. I think you have to. It's a slower delivery.
So, the Epicurean.
All right, that's
so
too slow.
can we put the Barry White filter on it? So, 2 years, 8 months.
2 years, 8 months.
Amazing. How did that happen?
Well, Norm. It was. It had run its course. I guess I didn't realize how committed I was to drinking regularly, and I stopped when it reached a point where it was not serving me well, as it turns out. So the common progression is that for most alcoholics and addicts in general is that it's magical, then it's medicinal, and then it's miserable. And that's the progression. And so it's usually pretty insidious how it progresses that way. And then you don't realize that you're miserable because of what you're putting in your body. And so, as it turns out, so I stop, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy Maloney.
Holy Maloney.
Try not to cuss on the air here.
Well, moly, I think, which
Moly.
traditionally follows holy, is not necessarily a curse word. But they talk about rock bottom. Did you hit like rock bottom?
I didn't. So, or it was, it's still a bottom, but
Right.
because it always is. As also, I'm going to throw in, of course, the AA sayings is that nobody ends up in AA on a winning streak.
Oh.
There's some poignancy. All the AAers out there like, yeah, yep, amen, brother. Yeah, they're just nodding their heads.
Right.
So, because I was frustrated, I wasn't moving forward, I wasn't where I wanted to be. There's a bunch of things that I didn't realize at the time. The reason why I was frustrated was I couldn't progress my company. I couldn't progress my creative career. I felt really stagnant, and I didn't know why.
Huh.
And so when I got sober, I'm like, oh, or the thought of someone said something like, oh, Steve, you should get sober, or you're not sober. And I'm like, oh, that's it. As soon as someone said it, it wasn't me having my internal dialogue, and someone basically made the suggestion of being sober. I'm like, that's it.
And it's stuck.
And that's it. So all of a sudden, I'm like, that's it.
Maybe you should
it
stop.
was over.
Maybe you should stop all that shit. And
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and it was a light bulb. You're like,
That's
oh,
it.
okay.
That's it.
Which, as I understand it, that's not how it usually works.
No, it's not. No, most people go kicking and screaming, and
Right.
it's sort of a gradual thing. But for me, it was me. I'm like, oh, it was the God moment that is commonly referred, which some people get, which I was lucky because I did. I also had a pink cloud. We can talk about it later. But the God moment where it was like being on a movie set or a TV set, because Stormy, because you're a movie star.
Yeah, and how? I can't go anywhere
You get mistaken for Bill Murray all the time
constantly.
when you shave off your scruff.
Yeah.
So, which you can talk about later.
No. You're answering a question here.
We can go over the Jim Jarmusch catalog.
No,
No,
we're not.
Okay.
No.
We're not.
This lychee is growing on me. Well, you had the God moment.
Yeah.
And
So it was like the director calling cut, and I was like, oh, that's what was going on. Like, yeah, I need to walk away from the set because this is not serving me well. And all of a sudden, I stepped out of it, and then I've never looked back. God, I just
2
knocked on
years,
the
8
table.
months.
2 years, 8 months.
It was amazing.
My life has gotten unbelievably better. My business is progressing. I've released 3 projects recently.
Nice.
Steve Mosto. Go to any major streaming service if you're looking for piano instrumental healing music, and put in Steve Mosto. That's Mosto.
We'll plug you a little bit.
Right. I just released a new project called Grounded, which has a slug on a mushroom, and the slug is grounded as I am now. So
What? How did we get to a slug and a mushroom?
because I was looking for artwork for my lovely wife Anne McGrath.
I see.
So when I'm looking for artwork
my
for
God. No more
plugs.
commercials. No more plugs.
So what I do when I look for artwork for my last 3 projects, I just go to Anne McGrath's Instagram feed, and I literally just page through because she posts every day.
That's amazing.
And she makes art and take pictures and posts it, and then she also takes pictures.
She's
And
fabulous.
so I just go through. I have the album playing, and I flip through, and I'm hearing Grounded, and all of a sudden, there's the slug on the mushroom. I'm like, that's it. It's the slug on the mushroom. And
Okay.
of course, I also pass it by my current producer and personal manager, Henry Mosto.
Oh, God.
Because Henry Mosto, I just do what he says. If he says, Dad, you should do this, and so that's what I do.
Okay. We're still talking about the sobriety, though, if you don't mind.
That's okay. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, bring me back.
Yeah. It's like herding cats. So you went, you had a God moment. You're like, oh, geez, I've got this filter on for the last whatever decade or however long, and the filter lifted, your God moment.
Right.
And you're like, oh, wow, I don't think that was a good filter,
No.
so to speak. And so what happened? You went to a meeting?
Yeah, so shortly after, I start going to AA because a friend of mine who was in recovery said, you need to go to a meeting.
In recovery, meaning in AA or NA?
Sober, yeah. And,
Right.
He was pursuing a program of sobriety and recovery. And so I start going to AA meetings. I went to the infamous mustard seed. And then I start going and listening, and I found a sponsor. I asked a guy you have to ask someone, which is always really hard. So self-made and self-determined and people who just only do things, and self-will, which is something that's one of the first things you have to surrender, which is really difficult in the initial part of the steps. And you have to ask your higher power for help.
Right.
And show your will. And then you have to ask someone to be your sponsor.
But how many meetings did you go to before you have to get somebody to be a sponsor?
Well, people go to hundreds. People go to one, and it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
And so it took me a couple of months.
Where was your first meeting?
So first meeting was at the Mustard Seed in Midtown, which was which is this infamous place. It's been there for decades, and there's a lot of people have stories about going into the Mustard Seed.
What kind of place is it?
It's a basement of a brownstone on 37th, right off of Lex.
Wow.
So it's in this, it's a Murray Hill neighborhood, somewhat nice, but then there's this funky basement space that the Mustard Seed pays rent to the owner of the brownstone to hold a continuous. So before the pandemic, they would literally have about 10 AA meetings a day, starting at like 7 in the morning to like midnight.
Right.
Just one after the other, after the other, after the other.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so how did you learn about this meeting?
So my friend Phil, who was in recovery, knew about it, and it was the closest one to my office.
So you had the God moment. You called Phil.
Yeah.
You said, I want to get sober.
Yeah.
And Phil said, great, let's start going
to a meeting.
Did he come with you to that first meeting?
He did, and my first temporary or interim sponsor is the correct terminology, David Field, who's a great friend. He really extended himself.
Also, God bless Phil for bringing you there.
Yeah. So they took me there for the first couple of weeks, and I was like, oh, that's what this is. Oh, these are my people. This could be really helpful. And it's been just a fascinating journey, and it's a lifetime journey, and just understanding yourself, why you did things, where you're going, what you have to basically admit and come to realization and take responsibility for, and allows you to actually change your behavior and change the way that you look at life. It's been fascinating.
Amazing. And, again, hats off to you, 2 years, 8 months. And it's been a wonderful thing as your friend to watch you doing this. And I'm so proud of you. And interestingly, I met you and you were just loud and boisterous and bubbly and the kind of guy that people be like, what's he on? And you haven't changed a bit. You're exactly the same, but maybe more thoughtful, more insightful, and really working hard to become even more insightful. And I guess one of the things is it's a 12-step program.
It is.
Can you take us through quickly what the steps are? You're allowed to share?
I can. I mean, can I?
Can you want a prop? You want to look it up?
I don't know them memorized. But
the first step certainly has to be just admitting that you've got a problem.
Yeah, you basically say that your life's become unmanageable. Which look, the 12 steps are just up. It's right there.
Oh, what a surprise!
So admitted we're powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. And so anybody who's doing anything like that all the time, you know that it's unmanageable. So
let's just stop right here and give a plug for anybody who's listening who maybe thinks they want to do that.
Right.
Where would they go? I mean, I guess you can just find a meeting and show up.
So there's, you put in Dutchess County AA or intergroup. And find meetings. There's meetings everywhere around here in Dutchess County, all the time, every day, many times
And the
a day.
same thing for like Narcotics Anonymous and all these things.
Yeah, so they have NA. There's a bunch of different 12-step groups like that. I mean, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, has expanded and are much more welcoming of people who have, most of the time, if you're drinking a lot, you're doing drugs too. Not all the time, but many of the time you are. And so 30 years ago, I wasn't in the program, but I've been told, it was much more like, hey, only talk about your alcohol problems. Don't talk about your drug problems. Oh. But now, when you go to AA meeting, people talk about any substance or everything that they were struggling with.
Right.
And it's okay, and it's accepted, and it's understood that substances are substances, and you're an addict, and you're here to try to get better and try to be sober. And it's certainly more open there.
All right. So what's the second step?
So the second step is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Okay.
Now that's people. I spent 6 months on that one.
Okay.
Just because then, first of all, what is a power greater than ourselves? I mean, and it's
what most people call God, I guess.
Right. But there's plenty of people, I think, who in the world who have basically say there is no God, or I don't have a God, or there is a God, but he's not looking out for me because all these they them are not looking out for me and my well-being because
God's
look at
pronouns.
Woe is me. Look at my horrible life, and I'm so struggling so much. If there was a God, I would be so much better. Which is a comment, and I'm obviously just paraphrasing and carrying it on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why people are not, have a solid relationship with their higher power.
So it took you 6 months to come around to that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about that, and you have to pray. So there's.
And you personally believe in God?
I do actually.
You raised Catholic?
I was raised Catholic, but that's not why I believe in God.
Are you a Christian now?
So that's interesting. So then, if you're a Christian, you have to believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and He did all the wild, fabulous things.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I would prefer myself mostly as a spiritual guy.
Okay.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in my 20s looking into Eastern philosophy and spent a lot of time with Hindu and Buddhism and whatnot.
Right.
But I think Jesus and his scripture and words as recorded in the New Testament has tremendously insightful and interesting that we can all learn from.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So step 3.
Step 3. Made a decision. Step 3, to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him.
Okay.
So as we understood Him.
Does it say Him?
It does say Him.
Okay.
I know. So
just saying.
It's the old, so they're updating this.
Yeah. Press the refresh button.
They're updating the 12 step. I have I think the 3rd edition on my phone, so maybe it's not the exact one there. So turn your will. So to turn your will over and your lives, which is basically you're asking God. We're just going to say God now because it's easier to say it. To basically say, show me what you want me to do. Tell me what your will is, not what I want to do, but what you want me to do.
Which, to me, as an outsider, seems really strange because what you're doing, this process, is a triumph of your own personal will to not drink, to not drug, to be healthy, to do things that are good for you, and it's a lot of willpower. And so this step is like, turn your will to somebody else.
You think so? The willpower is what gets you in trouble to begin with. And so you have
and I would
surrender.
argue that your willpower has gotten you out of that trouble.
So it's not. It's the surrender of the willpower that allows you to move on, and that's the trick. So, and I know we have a difference of opinion about that.
Yeah.
And someday when you come to hundreds of AA meetings and you talk about and do that own exploration, which you probably won't, you would perhaps find something different than where you are. So,
all right. What step are we up to?
Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Oh, boy.
There's the biggie.
All right, I'm getting depressed just thinking about that.
So nobody in the world wants to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
And if you did that, fearless and searching, I'm guessing there would be some surprises.
Yeah, you start going through.
What were
all
your
this stuff.
surprises? And you don't have to say, of course. Maybe
Well,
it's too
I mean,
personal.
you basically go through of, everything that now in my case, because I didn't come in, as they say, when you get sober, until I was 57 years old. I had my entire adulthood. So anyone out there who's in their 20s or 30s, please come in now and save yourself a whole bunch of time. And you have to go through your time with my entire adult life and decisions that I was not happy with.
Were there any particular things that popped out? You're like, oh, that's a surprise. I didn't see that coming in your fearless examination.
It's probably the way I treated people and how I always put myself first, even though I never thought of myself as a selfish person.
Interesting.
Essential disregard. Like, I'm taking care of me. When you're an addict and you're doing that, you're very self-centered.
Right.
And it's, you could say narcissistic, but you're just thinking about yourself. You think you're looking out, but you're really not.
Interesting. All right, what's the next step?
So step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and here's the clincher, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. So you sit down, usually with your sponsor, and you tell all your stuff. And
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was mean to a kid in 5th grade. I would kick to the dog.
That's right.
Those kinds of things.
Right. So just admitting to
I'm
God.
not admitting to that, by the way.
Yeah, just admitting and praying and basically, and you can actually. Now, of course, this always reminds me of having confession in my Catholic upbringing.
But you're talking to the people that you feel you wronged.
Well, you can say, no, not yet. This is you're telling your wrongs to someone who's independent. Usually it's your sponsor, though sometimes it's your priest if you have a good relationship with some religious person. But you basically tell someone everything.
I see. So you're sharing them to...
You're unburdening yourself by actually saying it out loud is the process.
Okay, what's next? Now I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So at the root and what allowed you to do all of these not great things, wrongs, were defects of character that you've identified because now you've written all this down, you've gone through it. It takes a lot of work to do those last 3 steps.
And what's the next one?
So then after 7 is humbly asked him, with a capital H, again, it could be her, to remove our shortcomings. So you basically ask her, like, please, I'm ready, and please remove them.
And what step are you up to?
So I'm on 6 right now, which was we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character.
Okay.
So I'm ready, as it turns. God, if you're listening, I'm ready.
I think now's a good time for a commercial break.
Commercial break.
God listens to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org whenever she can.
And when I'm traveling through Rhinebeck and I'm looking for a Reuben, I stop.
All right.
Can I plug Sam and Joanne's place?
They make Reubens here.
No, not here. I'm going over to the...
No, you're not going anywhere but here.
Really?
Yeah. The Epicurean.
On my way to the Epicurean.
All your Epicurean
On
needs.
my way to the Epicurean,
So let's
I picked up a Reuben at...
Quickly read the next
Sam and
4,
Joanne in the Matchbox.
And then we're going to move on to something else.
All right, sure. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing, I say, to make amends to them all. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. 9.
Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
Nice.
So you go and
That's
you basically
nice.
apologize to all the people that you were jerks to.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I'm waiting.
So I've already started to. Yeah, I know. Yeah, get in line. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
Okay.
So that means basically like when you say something that's not nice and you immediately own it and you go back to the person immediately and say, hey man, I'm sorry, which is what any good, together person would do normally. So through prayer and meditation.
Wait, this is number 12.
This is 11.
Oh.
Prayer and meditation. We didn't even talk about prayer and meditation.
No, we're just going to read them.
So prayer and meditation, if you're actively working the steps, you have a regular prayer and meditation practice.
Okay.
Which you practice every day.
All right, number 12.
To improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will or her will and the power to carry that out. And 12, which is the final step. Having had a spiritual awakening music coming from above, as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Carry the message, which is basically witnessing for the program. And witnessing is a big part of being a Christian also.
Right. So
witnessing
you
for your
reach out
religion.
when people are struggling or in trouble. You help other people who are in need of and looking of. And that's why once you come in and you work the steps, then you go and sponsor other people and you create this circle, and it helps you stay on the path.
Service, which is something we talk about a lot.
Right. It's all about service. So there
Service
it is.
is the best.
All right, I did it.
Now, briefly, you currently have a meditation practice. You do transcendental meditation.
Yeah, so I learned TM from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and his guru was Guru Dev. And any of you who are Beatles fans knows from the Lennon song, or maybe it's the George Harrison song, the Jai Guru Deva, nothing's gonna change our world. Anyway,
I know that song.
The Beatles went to India and hung out with Maharishi, and the only person that really stuck with it was George Harrison. And everyone else, they just wanted to get high and trip.
Right.
So it doesn't really work when you're dropping acid. You can't really transcend. It's kind of the opposite thing.
Right.
So when you sit quietly and think the mantra, which is a Sanskrit word, meaningless in our English language, it allows you to go within and your body settles down. And it's some deep shit. So I've been practicing regularly since like 85. So like 30 some odd years or whatever.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
So I don't buy this Sanskrit word meaningless.
Well,
in our language.
In our language, it's meaningless.
No, it's not.
Yes,
there's some good translation. Even if you need to write a book to translate it, you can still translate this freaking word.
Really? That's where you're planting your flagpole in?
My flagpole. This is why I get a radio show.
You couldn't
so I can
help
plant
yourself.
my flagpole.
You had to plant it.
You said that, and my bullshit meter went off the charts. I'm like, meaningless in our language. I'm like, bullshit. Yeah, planting the flag.
We could carry that thread further, or we can just keep moving on.
I'm just going to say I won that argument, and we'll move on. So
I just want to say hi, Mom. Go ahead.
So you are a musician. Now you're making music. You said when you had the God moment in the last 2 years, 8 months, you've gotten back to your original love, which is composing and performing and recording, and now you're releasing these things.
I am, and it's been a really interesting journey. I've been playing instrumental, and it's improv piano, where I sit down without any preconceived notion of what I'm going to play, and I just put the computer into record, because that's how we record these days, and I just play live from anywhere from 3 to sometimes 9 minutes, and if the performance is good, then I release it, and I assemble it, and I'll record not every day, but most days of the week when I'm in my city studio. And I started doing it last October, November, and it took me a couple of months to really get there and kind of hone in on what it meant to record an improv performance. And I started playing like that in the 70s. When my family was going to bed, I would be playing the piano. I was in high school, and I would start playing this quiet, meditative, circular, repetitive kind of piano music, melodic. It was really pleasing to not disrupt going to sleep for my family. And then when
You must have lulled them to sleep.
lulled them to sleep. And my sisters talk about that.
Gorgeous.
And 10 years later, when George Winston from the Windham Hill Group came out, and he exploded on the scene.
Yeah.
You went into a store, and it didn't even have to be a potpourri store to have them be playing George Winston. It was like, holy, what is that? And I remember that week, and both my sisters called me that week and said, Steve, I was just in a store, and I heard it, and it sounds like you playing the piano.
Stealing your
That's
gig.
right. Somebody stole your gig. And George Winston did that. Anyway, so I've been playing like this for decades.
Right.
And so now I've sort of honed it down. It's a little bit more melodic. He's very structured and extremely repetitive. And my stuff, if you go to Steve Mosto on a major streaming platform, you can kind of discover it.
Well, let's talk about that. What's a major streaming platform, such as?
So pretty much, I've been asking hundreds of people in the last 8 months, and most people have either Spotify or Apple Music.
Spotify, Apple Music. So I could go to either of those places.
Amazon Music,
and I could type in your name, Steve Mosto, Mosto,
right,
and I'd be able to hear this music.
Yep.
Sounds great. Now, I've heard the music because you've sent it to me, and it's amazing. It's really gorgeous music. And it did at first really remind me of George Winston, who I knew way before I knew you. And so you're releasing it on these platforms, and how's that going?
It's great. If I open up my Spotify home account and I have 14 monthly listeners, it's off the charts.
It's amazing.
There's so many people listening to my music today.
That's probably going to be more than are listening to this radio interview. So that's a home run.
Yeah, I don't work social media, so it's whatever.
But you've got kids not
Right.
too far out of being teenagers who must help you with all that.
Yeah. So I mean, and my son Henry, who's 20 years old, he's a really impressive recording artist in his own right. And both my kids, Willie and Henry, when they were young, I did the Vulcan Mind Meld, and I taught them everything I knew. Thank you, everything I knew about music. And by the time both of them got to about 12, they completely moved past me.
I've seen Willie play. I saw him play.
Yeah, so Willie's a really
Red
gifted
Dwarf.
guitarist, songwriter, and singer. And probably one of the proudest Papa moments that I've had in my life was Henry just released a recent project called Endings that's got 10 songs on it or whatever. Sorry, Henry, I don't remember the exact number. But 3 of them have these beautiful songs where Willie's playing guitar and Henry's singing. And it's just really, it's amazing. So and the song is Your Hair and Thank You for anyone who's actually going to go and find Henry Mosto on any major streaming platform. You can hear the boys play, the Mosto brothers, and they're an impressive and powerful creative force of which we've only seen the beginning of and heard the beginning of their journey.
What a blast to have your kids making music together. It must make you and their mom so happy.
Right.
Now, I saw Henry play with you one year at Porch Fest.
That's
I
right.
think you guys shared the stage.
We
did you
did.
play together, or did you? It was
He was playing drums for me, and then his friends and him played first. He came out and sang, and then I came up and sang, and then Willie came, and then the 3 of us played. It was pretty much the last public performance that the Van Mosto family singers actually played, which was like I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
2 years ago, I played with the Chambers of Steam with Michael Chambers,
Right.
also a Rhinecliff resident. Where he's a great drummer, and we had these ringers, Joey Eppert and Billy Riker from Woodstock. Yes, I remembered.
ringers.
Ringers, total ringers. They're pros. They play every day,
Right.
And that's what they do. I don't play every day. I try to, and Michael probably plays more than I do. But I got my 10,000 hours in. That's why I'm able to do this piano project at 59 and still be at the top of my game, which is I'm just grateful. I have this ability, and I've stayed close to it, and I've sacrificed a lot of other success in life, like financial, to be able to have access to my art and my music and to the ability to create and play.
Now you feel you're at the top of your game.
Absolutely. And my best work is yet to come.
That's great.
It's amazing to wake up every day and feel that and to know.
That's so positive and optimistic.
It is.
But you have all this experience, 40-some years experience making music,
Yes.
or 50 about.
Yep.
A lot of
Something
years.
like that, a lot of time.
And so you've got the context and the reference to understand that you keep improving.
Yeah.
That must be fabulous. Well, hats off to you.
Thanks.
And it sounds like a very meditative process, sitting there and composing the music at the keyboard.
It is. And actually, what I came to realize probably like 18 years ago, I did this really interesting project, is that the intention with which you hold and project when you're creating art is so important. And if you're not creating something with a specific and full of intention in a certain way, or you are and you're not aware of it, it's really powerful. When you I was creating a healing project with this healer who actually channeled a bunch of information from the astral plane.
Okay.
And which is that's another show. That's the next show. We'll talk about
That's
that.
a concept that can't be translated into mere English words.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the astral guide gave him musical information that he sent to me, and then I actually manifested.
Fabulous.
So you guys, whoever listeners, make of that of what you will. But I played this project, and it was with this specific intention that we have chakras. Now, the chakra healing of energy centers of our body is a widely accepted theory.
Okay.
From Eastern medicine, Ayurvedic, and whatnot. And when the chakras get out of balance, that's when we get sick.
Okay.
That's what many believe. And so this music that I created with Chase Carter, hi Chase, allows you to realign and make the chakras come into where they should be, and you basically become well. And so we created this project, and I didn't know before then, I had never sat down and say, I'm going to create healing music and I'm going to make people well when I sit down and make music.
Right.
And so I use that when I go through, which I do.
So it was years ago you did this thing with
Years
the guy
ago.
Chase, where he channeled something and projected it into your.
And said, "This is going to heal people. Can you make this music for me?" And I was like, "Yes."
And so, I mean, it sounds a lot like sort of the muse in a way. And people talk about the muse as the font of inspiration.
Right.
And is this channeling still happening when you sit down, like, say, this past week and compose some music?
So, Michael Jackson used to talk about sitting in the tree, his magic tree, and music would just come to him. And essentially, he was channeling music. And I think any real great artist will say, I don't know where it came from. It just comes through me. Bob Dylan, there's a lot of guys who talk about it. They don't call it channeling. And
Okay, well, it's opposed to what you were just talking about and sitting down with intention.
Well, correct. So intention is one thing, but then when you open yourself up and just say, I'm going to let come out of me whatever it does, that when you're creating improvisational music with an intention of healing, and then just it comes out of you, and it's like, and most of the time I'll press record and I'll play for some period of time, and then it's over, and I press stop. I'll just shake my head. I'm like, what just happened? Really? Oh my God! Absolutely.
My goodness, what
Absolutely.
a treat!
It is amazing.
That must be so much fun.
It is. It's amazing.
And so now that allows you a particular kind of remove from your creations.
Correct.
It sort of takes them out of your ego in a way.
Right. Yep.
And allows you to see them from a little distance,
Correct.
a little more objectivity. They're not really yours, so to speak.
No.
It's something.
It
Of course, you did it, but it's not really.
Just
yours.
came through. It's like I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I have no idea. It just does.
Huh. Now that's the thing that I'm actually fascinated with, that dynamic. And I see it, I think I first saw it with Roger Federer, the tennis player, who is such a master in his stuff. And he will hit these shots and he will just be so delighted. And, he'll be as happy as the crowd that he hit these shots. And they come out of like him, but it's almost like he doesn't own them.
Right.
He has this distance from them, like, oh my God, he with the crowd, like, can you believe what I just did?
Right.
And I think lots of creative people get to a point where you mentioned 10,000 hours, where you created it all, but you also have this separation from it.
Yeah, you have to get out of the way. If you
Get out of
keep
the way.
trying to do it, you can't come out.
For you. But other people, I mean, for me, I make a lot of art. I'm very intentional.
Right.
And I'm happy with a lot of it. Maybe it's not good art. I don't know. But it's all sort of from an intentional perspective.
Yeah,
that's not how you work.
Which I love your art.
But you were at one point, you were going to write an opening theme song for this show.
I was.
Now, that would have been an intentional thing?
Yes.
Or would you have let the muse in? And
I probably would have written a specific melody that I thought would.
you just started
sort of
with words.
represent the scruff and the rough that is Norm Magnusson.
Thank you. Well, say again, it's Apple Music.
Apple Music.
SoundCloud.
Not SoundCloud. Spotify.
Spotify.
Amazon Music.
all the Amazon Music.
All that, and any real streaming service.
It's all Greek to me. Let me know when I can buy the 45 or the 78.
That's right.
There's actually a turntable right here.
There is a turntable. Spin it, baby.
In the in the recording booth.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a minute left. What do you want to say?
Well, I'd like to thank the Academy and everyone who made it possible for this.
The listeners at home, every time he does that, he positions his mouth right in front of the microphone and holds a hand over one ear.
Like
it's
laughing.
ridiculous.
It's always laughing.
Laughing, yeah. Did we remember that guy's name on Laughing?
No.
The host?
No, the radio guy.
The radio guy. He was great. I loved Laughing. Are there shows like that now, sort of comedy variety shows?
I think SNL's gotten a little too mainstream. Occasionally they'll tap in when they have a great guest. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything like Laughing.
That's it.
It is.
All right. Well,
Ruth Buzzy.
All right, Steve Mosto, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Stormy. I love you, man.
Matt Rosenberg, thanks for conceiving this Radio-Free Rhinecliff thing. Patricia Wind at the Epicurean, thank you so much for hosting. This is Correct Me If I'm Norm, and we will hear you or see you whatever next week.